Have you ever wondered why a man, so seemingly unshaken by the storms of life, can suddenly crumble in silence when a woman he thought he possessed simply walks away? This is not a question of mere heartbreak, it is an unmasking of the soul. For in that moment something ancient stirs within him, a force far older than his name, deeper than his pride. The world tells him to conquer, to dominate, to take what he desires. Yet when she leaves, without rage, without plea, without justification, the ground beneath his masculine certainty begins to tremble. A man believes he owns time. He moves through life like an emperor of his small kingdom, assuming her presence is his right, her tenderness his reward. But when she steps away, he is not losing a person. He is losing the reflection of himself he saw in her eyes. That mirror of affirmation shatters, and for the first time, he stands before the vast and terrifying emptiness of his own shadow. Carl Jung understood this fracture of the psyche well. The anima, the feminine image buried in a man's unconscious, rises when the external feminine disappears. He cannot articulate this in words. Instead, he feels a restless unease, a hunger the no other woman seems to satisfy. Why? Because it was never about her entirely. It was about the portal she opened within him, a doorway to his own soul that he now fears to enter alone. When you walked away, you did more than exit his life. You exiled his illusions. You tore from him the narcotic of validation he had come to depend on, and without it, he trembles. He may appear composed, posting images of laughter, drowning in the noise of other bodies, yet beneath that surface lies a silent implosion. He does not miss you in the way the world imagines. He misses the man he believed he was. When you loved him, that phantom self dies in your absence, and grief follows like a shadow. What does he feel? Shame, though he would never name it. Rage, though he directs it elsewhere. But deeper still, an existential wound, a sense that something essential has slipped beyond his grasp. Men are taught to master everything but their own inner chaos. Your departure is not chaos, it is clarity. It is the unveiling of his dependency on what he thought he controlled. And in this moment, he meets his own fragility, stripped of armor, exposed to the cold winds of reality. You wonder if he regrets. He does, but not always in the way you think. Regret for losing you is tangled with resentment, for you became the one thing he could not bend to his will. There is a peculiar torment in that, for the male psyche, conditioned to conquer and claim. Your leaving is an initiation, not just for you but for him. Will he descend into bitterness, clinging to his ego? Or will he, in the cavern of solitude, encounter the truth Jung spoke of, that wholeness comes not through possession, but through union with the shadow? You wonder if he regrets. He does, but not always in the way you think. Regret for losing you is tangled with resentment, for you became the one thing he could not bend to his will. There is a peculiar torment in that for the male psyche, conditioned to conquer and claim. Your living is an initiation, not just for you, but for him. Will he descend into bitterness, clinging to his ego, or will he, in the cavern of solitude, encounter the truth Jung spoke of? That wholeness comes not through possession, but through union with the shadow. You do not walk away as a tactic. Walk away as a truth. For the essence of your power lies not in calculated withdrawal, but in authentic alignment with your worth. When you leave, because the space no longer honors you, you are not punishing. You are liberating. And in that liberation, something in him either collapses or awakens. This is the sacred risk of the feminine, to be the mirror that shatters illusion. even when it costs her the comfort of his arms. Some men will drown in distractions rather than face their reflection. Others will rage against you in stories they tell, painting you as cold or cruel. But a rare few will thank the wound in silence, for it becomes their teacher. It calls them to grow beyond the boy who needed a woman to complete him, into the man who can stand whole in the storm of his own being. Whether he rises or falls, that is no longer yours to carry. Your task was never to save him. Your task was to choose yourself. And now the silence begins to speak louder than any confession ever could. It does not roar, it does not plead, it hums beneath his thoughts like an unrelenting current. In the first days, he convinces himself it is nothing. He buries the emptiness under distractions, intoxicated by the applause of fleeting faces. But every night, when the noise retreats, the hollow space returns, vast, echoing, merciless. That space is not you, it is him. And that is the terror he cannot name. What happens to a man's soul when a woman walks away? He begins to collide with his own shadow. Jung warned that the shadow contains everything the ego refuses to see, the fears, the insecurities, the unspoken needs. She was the keeper of his light, because he projected onto her what he could not claim within himself. Her warmth became his sanctuary, her presence his validation. And when that sanctuary collapses, he stands naked before the cold truth. His strength was never sovereign. It was borrowed to the masculine ego. This realization cuts deeper than heartbreak. It dismantles the narrative of control, the illusion that love is a position rather than a pilgrimage. Most men cannot bear this confrontation. They armor themselves in bitterness, speaking her name with disdain, masking the truth that her departure opened the wound they cannot cauterize with pride. Others, desperate to reclaim the illusion, chase her like an addict hunts for a fix. Not because she is replaceable, but because the void she leaves exposes the fragility of their identity. And you, perhaps, wonder if your absence matters. It does. But not in the shallow way ego imagines. It matters because your absence strips him of his reflection. The mirror has vanished, and without it, he sees himself as he truly is, a being fragmented, dependent on an image that is no longer there. In this crucible of loss, he has two choices. He can descend into denial, clinging to substitutes, repeating cycles that keep him blind. Or he can step into the underworld of his own psyche, meeting the shadows that have stalked him since boyhood. Jung called this individuation, the arduous journey of becoming whole. Few men take it, for it demands surrender. Surrender of pride, of illusions, of the idea that someone else can complete what he refused to face within himself. But those who do, they rise from the ashes, forged in solitude. They become men who love without chains, who desire without devouring, who hold the feminine, not as a position, but as a mystery honored in freedom. Yet understand this, his awakening, if it comes, is not your responsibility. Too many women waste their lives waiting for men to transform, anchoring themselves to potential rather than reality. You are not his savior. You are the mirror that reveals the cracks, that is all. And in walking away, you choose a truth that terrifies the world. That a woman's worth is not measured by the weight of a man's need for her. Feel the power in that. For centuries, women were told to stay, even when love decayed into control, even when silence rotted into contempt. They were taught that endurance was virtue, that sacrifice was proof of devotion. But you, in the quiet courage of departure, defy that script. You write a new myth, one where a woman is not an accessory to a man's self-discovery, but the author of her own becoming. And yet, even as you walk, do not harden into bitterness. Do not make an altar of resentment, for that too chains you to him. Let your leaving be clean, like the severing of a rope that once bound you to the weight of what could not rise. Your absence should not be vengeance, it should be liberation. For when a woman leaves in anger, she remains entangled in his energy. But when she leaves in clarity, she becomes untouchable, a presence he feels in every silence, in every hollow laughter, in every attempt to replace what cannot be replaced.
To be continued.